NFL fans and Washington fans, we're going to do something called a deep dive today, where we're going to go into the start of the off-season mode and really try to dissect Washington. And that's a lot of dissecting. All right. If you've seen any of our shows in 3 years, you know Phil and I have, especially Phil, have not held off any of our criticisms, and rightfully so, and dutifully so. There's a lot to criticize in the past 25 plus years in Washington. It's not going to be cleaned up overnight. It's not going to happen in one season, but hopefully this is a starting process with what has already happened already. Fast forward, if you will, real quick. Coaching staff has been released, which everybody expected, and their first major front office hire has been made. Washington has hired the assistant general manager from San Francisco. So let's start with that right there. Phil, we already know all the negatives, at least from the previous histories. What do you think about the way Josh Harris is taking his first major hire?
I think he's done well with his first major hire because he did say he was going to be thorough and rapid, and that he was. So he went after it. He had some consultants. I think he had 25, 40, 172 consultants that he was using from the NBA. And I'm wrapping my head around that on how an NBA executive can help you hire a GM from the NFL. But okay, it's outside the box thinking. And quite frankly, I would have burned the entire box down. So I don't think he went far enough. He should have had bulldozers at the park and just bulldozed the building. Make sure everybody got out first and fired first, and then did it. But hiring Peters, all I know about Peters is that he came from San Francisco. I do read The Athletic constantly, and they run a survey about head coaches and executives and that sort of thing every year. And this guy, Peter, keeps popping up as one of the top executives that agents like. And I don't know if that's good or bad, because the agents like you. Does that really mean that you're a good executive or not? Or does that just mean that you keep everybody's glasses full of alcohol and you give out big contracts? I have no idea what that actually is supposed to mean. But he's popular.
Here's what I know. San Francisco's got a winning culture. John Lynch has put together a phenomenal roster in San Francisco. And if you're taking his number two, that's a safe bet. And
No, I don't think. I mean, dude, it's always a crapshoot.
yeah,
If you're taking somebody that's never done the job before, Peters hasn't done the job before. So when you have no history to go on to predict what he's going to do in the future. None. We don't know. We don't know what decisions he actually was involved in with San Francisco. So it really is a crapshoot. We don't know what he's going to do. He could be the next Charlie Castlery. All right. And we could be worshiping him when I'm 75 or 80 years old and say, oh, Peters, he's the best guy ever. He just brought us back from the brink of oblivion, and we've won 5 Super Bowls. Or I could say, who? We don't
oh
know.
yeah, that 2 year wonder.
Yeah, exactly.
The only other thing I want to say, Phil, is here's my take. Executives of sports are executives of sports. Business is business.
Mm-hmm.
So even though basketball is basketball and football is football, not to oversimplify it, but sports are sports. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a free pass on that one.
Well, I give him all the credit in the world. He was able to get together over $6 billion in one place at one time and write a check for that. That blows my mind right there. That right there is an accomplishment that I don't think anybody's ever been able to do in sports history, right? I think it's the richest contract, the richest team sale ever. So we know Harris can get together big money and get together people to contribute big money. That's a positive. He got rid of he who shall not be named, who's one of the worst owners in the history of professional sports. That's another positive. He was smart enough after the season to fire his current head coach and everybody else. That's another positive. If he's smart enough to get rid of everybody in football operations and business operations, anything that the former owner touched, he should get rid of. Period.
You
You
and
don't
I have
want
been
that
saying,
stink. Yeah, we don't want that stink. You can't get rid of that stink. So just get rid of all of it, bulldoze the place, and be done with it. So, he gets a chance. He gets a mulligan on his first pick. But as far as Peters goes, I have no idea what this guy's going to do. And I don't think anybody else knows if he's going to be good or bad. He could be great or he could be horrible. Who knows?
I do agree with you on one part, but I also want to try to keep it realistic. Anybody that was associated in any way with the old regime, to put it nicely, I think you're on your way out. I don't, unfortunately, that's unrealistic to say everybody all in one fast swoop. Um, I think they're going to just start at the top and work their way down and nitpick and find their ways and just slowly over maybe the course of 2 years have a full transition. That's I could be wrong, but I think that's a more realistic approach. But I think they have the same goals as what you mentioned. The reality is you can't just send everybody packing on day one. Um, Maybe you can, and I'm just not smart enough to see it.
Oh,
So
you can. It's just that you're going to walk around and go, "Hey, where are the paper clips?"
yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So I also want to share what the starting point is for the off season. So to do that, let's quickly just focus on some of the hard numbers of the 23 season that was. So in scoring, they averaged 19.4. That was 25th in the league. Scoring defense, they finished dead last, allowing over 30 points a game. They only sacked the quarterback 39 times. That was 26th. And only the Giants allowed more sacks. Washington was tied for 30th, allowing 65 sacks. As far as offense goes, they finished 24th in total offense, 312 yards a game. Running the ball, they were near the bottom as well, 93 yards a game. Passing, they averaged a decent middle of the pack number, 219 yards a game, finishing 19th. On defense, you already know what those numbers are coming. 388 yards of total defense against. That was DFL. Rushing 126 yards a game allowed. That's 27th. And then the passing defense allowed 262 yards a game. That's 32nd in the league.
How many
Washington had,
teams are in the league?
last time I checked, 32.
Yeah,
So
32
Washington
out of
has,
32. There you go.
yeah,
I like that.
Washington has the second pick overall. There's lots of areas of needs. There is. I don't, I think this is the Sonny Weaver in me trying to describe and evaluate Bo Callahan, but I am staying as far away from Caleb Williams as possible. That's just me. I would honestly highly flirt with the idea of trading from 2 to about 5 or 6 because of everything we just went over of the numbers. You have so many areas that need improving. One way to quickly improve is to have multiple first round picks. So, Phil, let's start with this. Do you keep the 2 or do you try to go up to 1 or do you try to just get lots of picks?
All right. My opinion on the talent on this team, with the exception of wide receiver and running back, there is talent deficiencies across the board.
And we're going to get to that in specific conversations very soon.
And you need basically everything, but like I said, running back, wide receiver, and defensive tackle, you need it. If it's not those 3 positions, you need the rest of it. You need as many picks as you can possibly get. However, as we know in the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback, you cannot win. Get the second pick in the draft. This is the deepest quarterback draft I have seen in years. Right here, right now, you need to take your shot. Well, it's a crapshoot when you pick one, but I think at number 2, you've got to choose a quarterback. As much as Caleb Williams, what he puts out there on social media is very abrasive. Let's just say I've never met the guy, so I have no idea about his personality or anything else. So I'm not going to judge him. He's a hell of a athletic talent, that's for sure. So you could take him if you want, but I think there are probably 5 or 6 guys that can do the same thing he can. And we always go and check boxes, and you look at these boxes and say, hey, who's not going to give me the most problems out there on social media and give me all the crap that I can't predict? I would check the box that he's not one of them. I would go with one of the other guys, and I'd take my shot with him, with another guy at number 2, period. Because I think you got Jaden Daniels. You've got.
And he's my number 1.
I know. Yeah, he's your number 1. And I'm not going to argue with that. I think he's fantastic. Won the Heisman Trophy. He is great. He's got great skills.
I know you're big on the other North Carolina kid, Drake May.
I did a whole thing on him, and I think I sent you, 1,200 pictures of him warming up and little video and stuff of him. Standing right there with him in real life, he's got all the intangibles. He is one big dude with a cannon arm. I don't know how well he can read defenses. There are people that don't like him, but I think he's phenomenal. So that would be my guy. But if you could also throw Penix in there, you can throw Bo Nix in there.
Well, I'm throwing Bo Nix in there.
That's right. I wouldn't have a problem with any of those 5. They're all really, really good. I don't see the whole JJ McCarthy thing, but there are people out there that think he's the best. There was one idiot that voted for him for number 1 in Heisman Trophy out there. So there are people that believe in that. So, but there are guys out there that have all the same skill sets. They all are right there. They have strong arms. They're mobile. They can do things that our current quarterback cannot do. So that's what they need to do, is at the second pick, take a damn quarterback.
Cheap plug real quick, sidebar. Every Monday night from 7 p.m. Eastern time to 8 p.m. Eastern time, we do a live showing and where we go more national big picture. And one of the discussions coming up is we're going to rank the college quarterbacks now that the college season is over. So please make sure you are subscribing to us, hit the like button, and follow us. And then when you're available on Monday nights, you can watch us live, and it's very interactive, and we are pretty good about answering your questions. If not, you can just watch it on your own time, but this is a discussion we're definitely having. All right. So Phil, I'm okay if they hold the 2. I'd almost prefer just to move back just to get the multiple first round picks, but it sounds like you're wanting the 2. And either way, I'm fine with that. I just don't want.
Oh, if I could pick up another second or third round draft choice and move back to 3 or 4, I would do that too. I'm perfectly okay with any of the guys that I mentioned. I don't see the fall off. I don't see. I mean, the only problem that you've got is 3 of those guys are older. Penix, Bo Nix, and Jaden Daniels are all a little bit older. So, I guess you get a little bit more maturity there, but you also can get hurt that, hey, their career's not going to be as long, but that's assuming that they're successful. And quite frankly, choosing a quarterback in the first round, it's a coin flip. I think it's only 33% are successful.
Well, and I think the number 1 overall, at least at one time, they did a thing. The number 1 overall pick hits at 50%, just 50%. So yeah, the phrase you've been using is crapshoot, and history says it is just a crapshoot.
Yeah,
I'm sure people will make some experts can make a better word choice than crapshoot, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm not going to have a problem if they take any of the top 5 guys. Quite frankly, I don't see much difference in any of them, if you want the truth about it.
All right, real quick, some of the leaderboards and then discussions of stay or go, because with new coach is going to come a new roster, and it's not going to be 100% turnover on day 1, but there's going to be some turnover coming. So Washington's rushing leader was Brian Robinson. He finished with a whopping 733 yards. That ranked 31st in the NFL.
Yeah, but that's not fair, Coach.
No, it's
It's not
not.
fair. You to get yardage, you have to actually run the football. Okay, I mean they have to call the play and they have to hand the ball to you to get rushing yardage. I mean that's just how that works. And under Eric Bieniemy, that did not happen in Washington this season. So it's not fair for Robinson to be crapped on about that.
So what makes this the impressive number is PFF graded him as the 23rd best running back to Phil's argument. So even though he finished 31st in rushing, he was still a top 25 running back. So that's a starting point. I don't see them moving on from their number one running back. As Phil's already mentioned, their wide receiver core is some of the strongest. It not much of impressive numbers overall, though, especially when Phil and I grew up in the lifetime where we had 3 1,000-yard receivers at one time on the roster,
Hell yeah.
and that was during a non-pass happy era.
But we had a freaking genius as a head coach.
So
Joe Jackson Gibbs.
Yeah. So Terry McLaurin, 79 receptions, 1,000 yards. He finished his PFF ranking of 35th. Curtis Samuel, who we're going to talk more about in a few minutes, 62 receptions, 613 yards, ranked 49th. And Jahan Dotson, 49 receptions, 518 yards, and just squeaked inside the top 100. PFF ranked him as 99th. Real quickly, let's fast forward to the offensive line. And the only
Sam Cosmi. Everybody else goes.
Funny how we say that.
Jeez.
Sam Cosmi is the one person, and Phil's already stolen the thunder of what's next on our conversation pieces, stays and goes. Sam Cosmi, snaps played, over 1,100 snaps played, only had 4 penalties against him, only allowed 1 sack, only allowed 31 total pressures
he should
allowed
be pissed
out of
off.
1,100 yards, and was ranked the number 5 guard overall.
He had an NFL All-Pro season. He did. And if he didn't play for such a shitty offense and in a shitty offensive line that allowed pressure every single freaking play, he would have been an All-Pro. He really would have been. He had that kind of a season. But the other 4 guys were just a guy. They were homeless out there that they put out there in front of Sam Howell with a quarterback that held the ball too long. So when you are associated with a shitty team and a shitty offensive concept, and you're stuck out there with them, people think that you're shitty too. He's not. He had an all-pro season, and he deserves all the credit in the world. And quite frankly, he even showed up every week, because I would have walked into that room and I'd looked at those guys and said, y'all got to get it together. You're killing my career. All right.
But yes. So, and then on the defensive side, if Kendall Fuller is our highest rated defensive player, bye-bye.
Yep. They could all go.
So how do you make a 53-man roster when on one hand we can count the number of people we want to save and bring back? Well, I want to start with, here's my first suggestion how. If you are considered a UFA, I'm just giving you the release. So here's some of the free agents coming in once the Super Bowl ends. Curtis Samuel, worth $11 million. Kendall Fuller, $11 million.
Thank you for your service.
Jacoby Brissett, I'm going to put a giant asterisk next to him, $8 million.
I would bring it. You know what? That depends upon the new coach coming in, because I liked what he had.
And let's throw this cheap plug out there real quick. He comes in for mop-up time, 2 games in a row, gets them almost back to victory. They do lose each game because they were down by 713 points, I think, combined in those 2 games before he brought them back. He was named starter, and then magically he got hurt and was not able to play the rest of the season.
Behind that,
and then Washington ended up with the number 2 pick. I wonder how that happened. I don't know. I'm sorry. That's probably some conspiracy theory. Shame on me for.
He wants to get another $8 or $9 million contract next year.
So,
business decision.
The free agents, I could see bringing him back. Antonio Gibson, only 1.23 million.
Thank you for your service.
Bye-bye. Joey Sly, 1.2 million.
Thank you for your service.
And then I was shocked how small his salary is. Cam Curl, 852,000.
Thank you for your service. Although I like what he brings, I saw him at the end of the year. He was ineffective.
So you have pretty much the entire defense. 4 of the 5 starting O linemen. I'm
You
going to
ain't losing
say
anything.
I'm going to say at least 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
A backup running back, possibly a quarterback. There's a lot of pieces to put together in year 1.
It is, and that $90 million in free agent money under the cap is not going to go very far.
And
because you have no cornerbacks on this roster that can play man defense.
nope.
None. St. Just is nothing but a zone corner and very ineffective. You've got that bust at first round draft choice, which when it was drafted, we did a video and we both said that it was a D- F choice, and that was a bust. And we were proven correct. So you don't have a corner, you don't have any cornerbacks on your roster. Your safeties are not good either. You have no linebacker. You do not have an NFL linebacker on the entire roster. And you don't have an NFL defensive end on the entire roster. So
Now,
you've got some issues.
I'll say this. I mean this as a positive compared to other teams like the Jets. Washington only has a $7 million dead cap hit. So as compared to other franchises, $7 million in dead cap not being able to speak for isn't the worst. But like you said, that $90 million cap space that they currently have, it's gonna go fast.
Have you seen how much left tackles cost?
Yeah.
20 mil.
And
Cornerbacks cost 18 to 19 mil.
so if Washington's taking their first pick with the quarterback, their very next pick or your number 1 free agent has to be a left tackle.
Yep. Affirmative.
And hey, listen, I'm fine with you if you draft the left tackle first and take the quarterback in the 2nd or 3rd round.
I think you got to get one of the top 5 guys.
I'm sure you're right. But then
and
again,
take your chances there. But you
trade back
to
8. You get, and then you get pick at 17. At 17 or wherever is your lineman.
No, you got to have something. But there's a lot of holes on this roster. I know the press up in Washington loves to tout. They get to know these players, and they love to tout how good they are. Let's be honest. What was it? 4-13? Not very good.
And
a talented football team doesn't finish 4-13. So that's the record, and the record speaks for itself. They're not any good. There's not a lot of talent on that team. Not a lot at all.
There's a lot to be discovered here and uncovered and just prioritize. So, assuming the next priority is the head coach, let's focus on that. Who's on your short list?
From what I've seen, Harris likes analytics, and the 3 veteran head coaches that are out there, I don't think are high analytics guys. Belichick, Carroll, and Harbaugh. So let's make that assumption, which makes an ass out of you and me, and go with the young guys. So we're looking at the OCs of the Texans and the Lions are the key OCs there. My favorite guys are actually the defensive coordinators. I like Wilkes and Raheem Morris. And I know Raheem Morris was unsuccessful the previous time he was a head coach. I think a lot of these guys that second time, remember, Bill Belichick, his first head coaching job was in Cleveland, and he sucked.
Pete Carroll was the previous coach in New England, and when he got fired, it was Belichick got hired. Carroll went to USC.
Yep. And I think they need a couple of years someplace. I think Raheem Morris, we followed his career. We even had him in Washington. he's succeeded everywhere he's been as a coordinator, as a defensive coordinator. And he's just as knowledgeable about offense as he is defense. So I think he could find a nice young offensive coordinator and have an offensive game plan and go with it. But I think they're looking at, or I would be looking at, the Houston OC, the Detroit OC. Those are the top guys out there. Then I would look at Wilkes and Raheem Morris. So there's four. I don't think you could go wrong with those four. But again, getting a guy that's the first time that he's setting things up, you never know how that's going to happen. He could be overwhelmed and drown.
So if I had to rank the coaches that I know are good, or at least my thought, I'm not going to disagree with anything that you just said, but the one name I'm going to add that probably will not find their way to Washington is Mike Vrabel.
Why he got fired, I guess Tennessee just got tired of him.
No,
And I think
no.
he's going to be a
I
great
actually
coach
did some
somewhere.
research. I can tell you word for word quote. So owner McNair died. Daughter inherits the team. Okay. Daughter makes a hire about 2 years ago of the general manager. General manager is the one that traded AJ Brown. General manager has been making the draft picks the past 2 years and all the other,
That had been
personnel moves.
unsuccessful.
Vrabel and him do not get along. She made it clear you need to be aligned with him. He said no. She, in her statement, then says, we do not see eye to eye. We are releasing you. Let's see how that plays out, Tennessee. I want to root for the Titans, but that ain't looking good in Nashville in the future, is my opinion. But anyway, I'm a Brett Vrabel fan. Back on topic to Washington.
He's a solid guy. I just don't see him as in the analytic crowd.
No, I don't think so either, but that's who I would, have my 2 cents for. So anyway, folks, listen, this is part one of a deep dive. There's so much to uncover, especially in Washington. As more comes out, we'll give you more information, but this is a good first look. There's a lot of roster decisions to be made, and most of those are not going to be starting to happen until a head coach is found. But there's our first take. Washington fans, what questions do you have? Ask away. Phil and I are really good about responding. If you're just an NFL fan, what team do you want to see do a deep dive on us? I'd love to do all 32. That's unrealistic, but Phil and I are pretty good at this stuff.
And we've been looking for home teams to root for over the past
Phil sort of
5 years.
Phil's sort of gone to Vegas. I've sort of gone to Tampa Bay.
I go to Vegas every time I get for multiple
Yeah.
seasons.
So there we go. Phil, any final thoughts you want to end with?
Look, Washington had a successful season. And I know that sounds stupid when you finish 4-13 and picking second in the draft, but you got rid of a cancer. You had a terminal brain tumor and you were dying a slow, painful death. And you got rid of that brain tumor and you can live. Now, granted, you only weigh 98 pounds and you're on oxygen and everything else. However, you can come back from that because you got rid of that tumor. You got rid of your cancer. And anytime that happens, it's a win. So I think Washington won this year. I think they had the best season of any NFL team because they got rid of a 25-year cancer.
I cannot agree. Minus the team that gets to hold up the Super Bowl trophy. Other than that, there we go. Folks, comment below, hit the like, hit the subscribe, or follow back button, share out to your followers. Thanks for watching.